Hello everyone and welcome to an exciting new video. You all know that I normally don't talk about games or review them on this channel, but I'm excited to announce that I, like many other creators, am partnering with Awaken Realms for their upcoming release of a massive update to one of their games, Tainted Grail, the Fall of Avalon. Awaken Realms, for those who don't know, is a gaming company most known for their many successful crowdfunded board games such as Aetherfields, Nemesis, and even Tainted Grail. What started out as a gritty tabletop game where you could explore Arthurian and Celtic mythology is turning into a massive open-world RPG that's currently in early access. I'll drop a link to the Steam page in the description so you can go check it out for yourself. But back on the topic of the partnership I mentioned earlier, Awaken Realms is planning a massive event to celebrate the release of a huge update for the Tainted Grail game, with the event themed around a legendary battle where King Arthur was said to have struck down 960 knights. With the theme in mind, Awaken Realms has decided to gather their own army of influencers instead of knights to get the word out about their game and this new update, which is currently scheduled for May 27th. Also, while this new update is apparently going to be awesome, the game by no means will be finished when it releases. The game is still in early access with a scheduled release sometime in 2025. So when they reached out to me and asked if I was interested in being part of the event, I was more than willing to register to be one of the influencers, and that's because I love RPGs, and the game looked like it could actually be a lot of fun. Also, as one of their influencers for the event, I'll be able to provide you guys an exclusive first look at various concept art and designs they've released to us, so if you're interested, you can find them over on the Geek Studios website. But what's even more exciting is I'm also supposed to be receiving extra copies of Tainted Grail later on to use as community giveaways. We'll be holding our own community event once I receive those extra copies, so stay tuned for that. But now that I've explained the situation and told you all about the collaboration, let's talk about the game itself. Tainted Grail, the Fall of Avalon is a game that I think stands out for its creativity in story and design. And just to be clear, I don't plan on giving the game a completely biased review just because Awaken Realms asked me to be part of the 960 event. I'm keeping my reviews of the game fair and honest so that you all aren't ever misled in terms of what the game is or how it plays. So you know I mean it when I say the game stands out, largely due to the focus on gameplay over graphics. You'll notice the game isn't hyper-realistic with the art style. They even say on the Steam page for the game that they aren't aiming for AAA graphics, not even quadruple A. This was actually the first thing I noticed when downloading the game, and I genuinely appreciated the sentiment. Anyone who plays video games knows too many companies, even smaller studios, focus so hard on the shine and polish of their games to make them look nice without ever really adding a lot of substance to the game itself. So the clear stance of gameplay over graphics was a welcomed one, but that alone doesn't guarantee the gameplay is good, so let's talk about it. Now the game itself is your classic first-person RPG. Your character is two hands on screen swinging away with whatever you're currently wielding. The combat is pretty basic from what I've seen so far. You attack, parry, attack, rinse and repeat until everything's dead. That's not a complaint or anything, but if you're expecting some sort of advanced combat system where you're mashing buttons to do any sort of combo or spell cast, then this isn't it. Like I said though, I don't see this as a bad thing, and I enjoy the combat mechanics are pretty simple. It makes the game easy to understand so anyone can pick it up and play without a steep learning curve to figure out. Also, the parry window is extremely generous. It only took a few minutes of getting the timing down to start parrying pretty consistently. Something I did enjoy, and I mentioned this earlier, was the creativity behind the gameplay mechanics. Where most games simply give you a stat screen to manage when creating your character, Tainted Grail has you basically explaining yourself to a prison guard where your answers determine stat bonuses for certain armor classes and weapons. And unlike other RPGs, I haven't run into any kind of prerequisite when obtaining a new weapon or magic. Where most RPGs lock things behind stat requirements, Tainted Grail just lets you use whatever you get your hands on. I thought this was really cool because this lets you keep your playstyle fluid and allows you to change up how you play through the game. You can tackle obstacles and enemies with a wider variety of strategies, and I feel like that encourages you to explore the world since you now have a reason to go find and collect everything. With that being said, there is still a character stat screen to worry about once your character is actually up and running. The game seems to offer you several ways of improving your character as you play, that being just basic leveling with character stats and increasing proficiency by repeatedly using skills and techniques. Things like consistently using two-handed weapons will improve your proficiency with two-handed weapons overall. I know Tainted Grail isn't the first game to incorporate a leveling mechanic like this. I remember playing old school Elder Scrolls Morrowind as a kid. That game did the exact same thing. But just because it isn't new or groundbreaking doesn't make it bad. I appreciate that Awaken Realms didn't try to reinvent the wheel with every aspect of the game like some companies tend to do. And it's mechanics like these and several others that gave me a sense of nostalgia while playing Tainted Grail. It feels so similar to classic RPGs from my childhood, and I think that's great. Now, if you're looking for a fresh new style of game, then I'm sorry to say you might be disappointed. While I personally think that it's a great thing Awaken Realms kept the game feeling fun and familiar, I know others might disagree. There are many gamers out there who want games to be unfamiliar so they can experience something that they've never seen before in terms of gameplay, and if that's you, there's nothing wrong with that. That's also not to say this game isn't original. The stories and settings are new and interesting, and while the gameplay feels familiar and nostalgic, the game's main story and the world are anything but familiar. The land you find yourself in is meant to be foreign and dangerous, and that was conveyed perfectly once you leave the game's opening area. And going back to the stat management for a moment, there was another game mechanic I ran into regarding character stats. While weapons and things don't have stat requirements to wield them, at least not that I've seen so far, each individual stat has its own list of mastery perks, or passive abilities you could call them, that you can unlock as you level your stats past certain thresholds. This just adds another layer to character building in my opinion, without the mechanic feeling out of place. I was also shocked with just how much random stuff you could do in the game. I love when open world games truly feel open world. While playing Tainted Grail, I accidentally found out you could swim just because I fell in water deep enough for my character to start holding their breath. I don't even know if there's a point to it right now, or if it's just a random mechanic with no effect on the actual story, but I honestly don't care. It's just another fun thing to do when you're wandering around the game. I swam around for a little while and never encountered anything under the water, but that could also just be because of the area I was in. I'm not far enough into the game to know for sure if there's actually anything you're meant to find underwater. But I also found a fishing pole and I had a blast trying to catch fish. It's like my buddy Nitro always says, if a game has fishing mechanics, it's automatically awesome. I'm excited to keep exploring because I'm curious what other random mechanics I'll find while going through the story. Jumping over to the game's story for a minute, I just need to say this game, like many RPGs, is very story heavy. There are a lot of cutscenes, dialogue options, letters, and books to pick up and read, and they all do a really good job with shaping the lore of the game's world. There are a ton of different ways to engage with the game, like being able to lie to characters when talking to them or try to butter them up and persuade them to tell you secrets. It's all really fun and lends itself to the role-playing aspect of an RPG. But with that being said, the story is not just laid out for you. Like with other RPGs, take Dark Souls for example, you're given a basic story premise and some vague hints from various characters, and that's it. If you like playing games with stories you don't have to pore through letters and journal entries to fully understand, this might not be the game for you. I personally enjoy this kind of storytelling though, as it feels more realistic and gives you a sense of satisfaction whenever you manage to piece things together yourself. But the big thing I really wanted to touch on to close out this review, and this is something I talk about a lot outside of YouTube, is the emphasis on a single player experience. That really stood out to me with Tainted Grail. There aren't any player invasions or messages scrolled across the ground anywhere you go, and you'll never see or hear another player your entire playthrough. And best of all, you don't have to log into an account or connect to a server to play. I went nuts for this because so many games, even ones who have no business trying it, have some form of online connectivity. The fact that I don't need the internet to access the game once I've downloaded it is one of the biggest wins I could have asked for when it comes to playing a game. But that's all I have for you guys now. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, be sure to leave me a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, I just wanted to give another huge thank you to Awaken Realms for the opportunity to be a part of the event for Tainted Grail. If you all enjoyed the gameplay and commentary, definitely go check Tainted Grail out for yourself on Steam by clicking the link in the description below. Also, don't forget to check out GamerGeekStudios.com to take a look at Tainted Grail concept art and designs that I mentioned earlier. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you all in the next one.